to the copyright page in your book, what information is necessary to have to make sure you're legally protected. Today, we're talking to everybody's favorite IP and entertainment lawyer, Tony, to learn more.
My name is Tony Iliakostas. I'm an adjunct professor of entertainment law and IP at New York Law School, and have an Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok account called the IP Professor that is dedicated to all things intellectual property.
Tony, we talk a lot about book copyright and making sure we're legally protected inside of the publishing industry. And one question we get a lot is what goes into a copyright page at the beginning of a novel? Is there specific information that we have to include? Is there things that we don't necessarily need? What does this look like for authors and publishers who are creating their own novels and have to get this information in their books?
Yeah, it's a pretty basic, cut and dry, nothing glamorous, I guess if you want to call it that. It's very important, obviously, to have the copyright information, specifically who the copyright owner is, and laying out maybe contact information for that copyright owner. Usually, if let's say you were to pick up a mainstream book, you'll see the publisher name as the copyright owner, and then supplemented with maybe even the actual publisher's mailing address, things of that sort, obviously to provide some type of notice if there was some type of infringement. But I want to talk about that copyright notice specifically because a lot of people, not just specific to the book industry necessarily, but I'm sure a lot of people have seen the C circle with a year followed by a comma and then the name of the copyright owner. And then, of course, there's the all rights reserved language that we always see. But I want to really stress that because once upon a time, if you actually didn't have that copyright notice, that actually would negate copyright ownership, and actually that would make it automatically enter the public domain. Thank God that rule has changed since then.
Yeah.
Actually, this was that point exactly was potentially the butt of a massive dispute that took place with actually Superman's copyright when there was a whole lawsuit involving the Superman copyright potentially being infringed on by the creators of Shazam, who was formerly called Captain Marvel. A years-long dispute, but that case actually boiled down to whether or not the creators of DC Comics Superman, which was formerly National Comics, did they actually provide proper copyright notice of the Superman character. So, like I said, once upon a time, this was a thing where you had to do copyright notices, otherwise you really couldn't enforce the copyright. Now that is not the case. The way the Copyright Act is drafted, basically the moment you create any work of authorship, you automatically have a copyright. And this was a notion back then also, but that's really just all it is. However, copyright registration, I'm a firm advocate of it. I think it's the way to go for every single author. It's not mandatory except when you want to pursue a claim of copyright infringement. So in my eyes, why wait till you get the copyright infringement claim when you should just be proactive, do your work, register the copyright in the U.S. Copyright Office. It's super cheap. The way you register an application is super user friendly. You really have to be a bona fide idiot to not figure it out. It's that easy. And it's not expensive at all. It's like 50, 55, maybe $65 max to do this type of copyright registration. Once you get that registered, then the copyright notice on the inside of your book now all of a sudden has a bit more meaning, and it feels like there's muscle behind the bodybuilder. So I really advocate for that type of proactive measure at the very least that will supplement very well with the copyright notice. So I would say that that's essentially the core of what you would typically find in the copyright notice page, or the copyright page of the inside of a book.
And is there a specific layout that we have to have this in, or as long as we've got that information, we're good to go?
Yeah, I would say, I think maybe following some similar formats, not necessarily copying it to the T, but I would say using other books as maybe guidance would be a good way to go. But I would advocate highly for, at the very least, having the C circle followed by the year of publication, and the copyright owner supplemented with any contact info for that respective copyright owner. One thing I should mention also that's important, let's say that you're an author that creates a book that will typically have different editions of that book. You're going to have a second edition, a third edition, a fourth edition. You have to keep the copyright notice consistent, where you have the year of publication for the first edition and then the year of publication for the second edition. So let's say that you make 3 editions of a textbook. Edition 1 came out in 2005, edition 2 came out in 2010, and edition 3 came out in 2020. you would have to have the copyright notice by the third edition. You would have the copyright notice say something like C Circle 2000, 2000, I think it said 2005, 2010, 2020. So now you have all 3 years that are showing that for all those different editions, you've registered copyrights for those specific books, but you also have the copyright dates that are active for those specific registrations.
That makes a lot of sense. So if you are creating a copyright page to go on the inside of your novel, do make sure you have all of the correct copyright years and that you take a look at some of the other well-known books in the industry just to kind of see what that layout is so that you can follow along and make sure you are in line with what everyone else is doing. If you have further questions on this, go ahead and drop it down below. And as always, Tony is dropping content every single day, helping you to stay legally protected in all realms of your entrepreneurial endeavors. So if you've got further questions, you can always reach out to Tony on his socials. Tony, where can everybody find you?
You can find me on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at the IP Professor, and you can check out my brand new entertainment law podcast, End Scene, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
If you have questions on this, go ahead and drop those down below and hit the subscribe and notification bell so that you don't miss out on any of Tony's episodes. We want to make sure that you are legally protected in the publishing space, so now is the time to let us know what you're uncertain of, because Tony's coming back for even more weekly recordings to keep you legally protected inside of your publishing journey. And we're dropping daily videos to help you level up to make more money this year inside of your writing and reading worlds. We'll see you in the next episode.